Score. Thank you for being here today for Tuesday's top tips. And today I have a really special one. I'm hoping you're going to love it. It's the 5 decisions that grew my business and how you can apply them today. That's the gift that I'd like to give you today. So excited to be here. If you have any questions, please put those in the comments and I will be sure to answer those questions. But I really wanted to dive in a little bit about how I grew my company because a lot of people ask the question like, okay, Allie, you do business coaching and you help people, but how did you actually do it? And a lot of it was trial and error, right? Learning things. I read a lot of books and things like that to help me, but most of it grew out of accident. So making errors in my business life and then learning from those errors. And that's really the way we all grow, right? We have things that we did wrong, we overcome those, and that's what we help our clients with. So we have a process, maybe we stumbled on a problem that we had and we were able to overcome those obstacles and come over to the other side, and we're helping our clients do the same thing without having to go through all of the problems and difficulties we had, so we can make that path for them a lot smoother. And so hopefully this live will do that for you. So again, most of how I grew my business was by accident. We grow because of a few key decisions that can change everything, right? And that's if we're looking at different problems that we've had in our life and we are actually looking at them as lessons, we can grow and become better faster, right? And reading books is a great way. Reading books from people who have been successful in all the trials and errors they went through and how they overcame is a great way to do that. But today I want to share some exact things that helped me grow my business, starting with a lesson that felt like a slap in my face. So I'm going to tell you a little story, and some of you guys know this story, but I'll start with that story. And it comes in the whole idea of finding your niche. Okay, so when I became a loan officer, I was in my 20s. And I was really excited about being a loan officer because I was a single mom with 2 kids at home and I wanted to be able to be there on school appointments and things like that. And so I thought if I'm a loan officer, then I can kind of make up my own time. So I was really excited about the idea of being a loan officer. And then I was really excited about the idea if I could find a real estate agent that would refer business to me that would make everything work out, right? And so there was this particular real estate agent that was in my area that was really known. And I knew that if I can get him sold and using me as his loan officer and him referring all the business to me, I probably wouldn't have to worry about money anymore, take care of my kids, have that flexibility I wanted. So I was really excited about that proposition. So I really tried really hard to get a meeting with him. And finally, by the grace of God, he let me come to his office to have that meeting. And I remember going in, and again, I'm in my 20s, right? Young 20-year-old and new in the business. So I don't know a whole lot about the business, but I'm walking in very confidently. And we do our little small talk. And then he asked me for my business card. And I was like, oh, good. He's asking me for my business card. This is a good start. So I handed him my business card, and I was really excited about my business card. It had a picture of a house on it, and then it says, "A new house is right up your alley," ALI. I thought, oh, that's really cute and clever. And I handed that to him and he looked at it for a second and he literally threw it back at me and it landed on the floor. And I remember, man, that's rude. Right? And he said, if you're going to do business like this, I can't do business with you. Like, there's no way that I can refer to you. And I'm like, whoa. And I really felt like I just got that slap in the face by someone. And he went on to say that if people are going to work with you, the reason they work with you is the relationship you build with them. It's the know, like, and trust, right? So lesson number one, know, like, and trust. And so I took that to heart. He's like, to do that, you got to show your picture on your stuff. You have to be present and they have to see your face. And so if you guys know me, I do a lot of videos and all of that stems from that conversation many, many years ago. I won't even say because today's my birthday, right? By the way, 46. So 20 years old, loan officer, that's 26 years ago, right? So the idea there, the first lesson that he taught me is that it's a know, like, and trust relationship, right? Thank you for the happy birthday. Um, the second thing he did was he asked me, so what do you do? And I remember thinking, like, why are you being so mean to me? I'm 20 years old. You're older than me. You know I'm here to try to get your business. Why are you being mean to me? You already slapped me in the face with my business card. And I said, well, I'm a loan officer. And thinking, of course, duh, you know that. Why are we playing this game? And he goes, no, no, no. I know you're a loan officer, but what do you do? And I said, I do all loans And he looked at me, he goes, well, then I can't even refer to you. You can't be great at everything. And so that was my second lesson of business is number one, it's a relationship process. Number two, you have to have an audience to talk to, and you need to be an expert for your audience. And so that's where I always talk about, and you guys have heard this, finding your niche. So in this process of going through this educational learning experience with this real estate agent, feeling like I got slapped in the face. By the way, he did not refer business to me, guys. Okay, I just want you to know that right now. He was literally taking me under his wing to teach me a lesson. And I picked up on those lessons. Good for me. And we're friends to this day. Him and I are friends to this day. But finding a niche is about who is my audience. And a lot of times that niche is going to come out of pain that you may have gone through or something you were able to triumph over. You figured out how to get to the other side, so to your goal, and then whatever transformation that may have occurred at the same time. And the really, really cool thing about niches, and this is what happened to me that made me very successful in the mortgage industry and then in turn in the credit industry, was once I decided what my niche was, which I decided on first-time homebuyers because I had been a first-time homebuyer in my 20s, bought my very first home, single mom with 2 children, bought my first home, and I was very in the dark. It was an anxious process, one of the biggest decisions you're going to make in your life, right? And here I am, I don't understand the process. The loan officer wasn't transparent about the process. The real estate agent wasn't transparent about the process. And probably because they had done it so many times that it starts to become like they think everyone already just knows it, right? And that's what we have to be very careful about as we become an expert in our niche is understanding that we know something other people probably don't know. So we have to continue to make sure that we're being transparent about the entire process. So anyway, I decided I was going to be a first-time home buyer specialist. So that means I learned at all the first-time home buyer loan programs like VA, USDA, FHA, all of those. I became an expert at those. I studied them and studied them and studied them so that I knew how to get someone from to get that loan and go buy their home, right? And all the nuances to it. I was so good at it. Other loan officers who couldn't get the deal done with the same kind of loan programs, I was able to because I understood the guidelines for those lending rules. And so that transpired to, okay, well, what happens when I started talking to that audience? I learned, okay, not only are they looking to get their first time homebuyer loan, but some of them need down payment assistance. So then I was able to research in the area that I worked in, like where down payment assistance programs, home buyer education programs. They knew they had to mow their grass when they bought a home, which was something I didn't know, quite frankly, when I bought my first home. I know that sounds crazy. I bought a home on a half an acre of land and didn't realize I needed to buy a lawnmower. Okay. And this is true for a lot of people when they buy the first home. They don't realize all the responsibilities of doing that. And so understanding that and understanding my niche better and better because I'm getting feedback from them, I'm interviewing them. I was able to do this and this and this. And then I was like, oh, some of them are coming to me, they have credit issues. And so then that opened up the door that I also work on the credit issues. So do you understand that because I stuck with a niche, I was able to become an expert in all things that related to that person and all their pain points that related to their goal of buying a home, right? And so I could really speak their language. I can provide the resources and provide the help they needed. So what happened is in a very short period of time, I became known as the first time home buyer expert. I didn't give myself that name. Everyone gave me that name. And that's what happens when you have a niche. You get to focus and hyper focus on this one area. You don't have to know all things. So if you think about like an attorney, for instance, an attorney goes to school to be an attorney. They don't go to school to be a specific attorney. They go to school to be an attorney. During that process, they figure out who their audience is that they want to work towards, and then they study that thing, right? So you can't go to an attorney and learn all things. You can't go to an attorney and they're going to cover all things. You'd be remiss to think that they're going to help you of all things, but that's their education. So then they had to focus on one area. And that's what I'm saying for you guys is number one, relationship building. Okay. And finding your niche. So those are two big things that were important for my transition in being where I'm at today. And I think even if you don't do the other ones that I'm going to tell you, which by the way, number two is actually relationship building. So number one is your niche. And then number two, your relationship building. I think if I were to just do those two things over again on any business that I start, which I've done a few businesses in my day, start a new business and I just focus on those two things, I'd have a successful business. But I'm going to give you some more things that are going to make it even more successful because sometimes you can grow really fast and really big. And if you don't put the other pieces in place, it starts to fall apart. Okay. And so, okay, so number one, let's get this in your head. So you're going to define a niche. This is really important. You need to know who your audience is. You need to become an expert in all things related to your audience. You become an expert by reading, educating yourself. So if you're working with first-time home buyers and you're in the mortgage industry, or even if you're not, let's say you're in the credit industry and you're just working with first-time home buyers, you might want to go on YouTube University and find out everything about loans, right? And the guidelines and things like that. So just know that there's a lot of resources out there once you decide what your niche is. Alex Hormozy talks about this too. He has a book called The $100 Million Offer. And he says, riches are in the niches because the more specific you get, the easier it is to create an offer that feels like a magic bullet. People don't want a generic solution. They want something that feels tailor-made for them. And niching down is how you get there. And so he has a saying that he says, if you don't have a niche, he'll go, don't make me niche slap you. That's how powerful niches are in his world as well, is that it's probably the most important thing you can do in your business is figuring that out. You can't be a credit repair company for all people. You can't be a financial advisor for all people, right? Because you can't be an expert of everything. So thinking about that. So lesson, your niche isn't just about narrowing down. It's about accelerating your expertise, clarifying your message, and positioning your offer as the magic bullet your clients are already searching for. Okay. Number two, my second lesson I'd like to teach you is about networking relationships. And I kind of talked about that in that first story where he threw my business card back and said, I can't do business with you if you do business like this, because people do business with you because of relationship building. So once I finally found my niche, I was able to realize the next level of growth wasn't going to come from sitting behind a desk, right? So this is where, we're blessed to have social media because we can go out there and talk to our audience this way. But going into networking events and going to different, if I'm working with single moms, if that's my niche, I need to go to single mom events, right? I need to be present in those areas. And the thing that I like to suggest to people when we're networking, because I see so many people network the wrong way, in my opinion, the wrong way. And so I'll tell you what's helped me and what's helped me be successful in networking. So when I go to a networking event, you will never see me, and I know a lot of you have seen me in a networking event because you've been to them with me in the room. You will never see me walk up to you and go, "Hey, my name's Alicia. I'm the founder of LevelUp Score. I help credit professionals get solutions for their clients very easily," right? You'll never hear me say anything like that. What I will do is I'll come up to you and say, "Hey, I'm Alicia. What's your name?" And then I start asking you about you. It's an interview style networking. So instead of me saying anything about myself, I'm only inquisitive about who you are. I'm curious, I'm seriously, genuinely curious about who you are. And if you can have that genuine curiosity for people, and I think for me, it comes from love of people. If you can have that and you can express that in networking, you're going to be like a magnet to everybody. Everybody's going to want to come and talk to you. So I just went to the Smart Credit Conference and I went the first night. LevelUp Score host was the sponsor of the event, right? But instead of me going around, I'm like, "Oh, hi, my name's Alicia. Oh, I'm LevelUp Score. I'm the sponsor of this event, blah, 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 and all about me." I never said those words. I went to people, shook their hand, say, "Hey, can I interview you?" Oh yeah. And sometimes I'll use the word interview, sometimes I won't, but I always have the idea that I'm going to interview you. I'm curious about you. So I had a lot of fun that night because I was like videotaping everybody. I was asking them questions. You guys see that on my feed because we've been posting some of those videos. And then what happened was people were coming up to me trying to figure out who I was, right? So I didn't have to go search and try to push to let people know who I was. They were coming to me because they were attracted to me because I was curious about other people. Does that make sense? So remember that in business, it's about building relationships. And I love the idea of the interview style. And Russell Brunson talks about it a lot. So if you ever read the book Expert Secrets, he talks about that whole interview being like a reporter. And I tell people, keep that in your life all the time. Like always be that person. You're going to attract more people into your life, but you're going to learn so many beautiful gems that you would not if you just talked about yourself. Okay. So that's a one takeaway. Um, so in this respect, like when I found my niche and I started going to events with like loan officers and real estate agents and stuff, I never went in and was like, oh, I'm a loan officer. I actually never said those words. So when someone came and they did inquire, because it's okay if they inquire about me, it's okay for me to talk about myself, but that's not my end game. Or that's not my beginning game. I'm not going in there to be that way. But when I did talk about myself, I talked about, hey, I help people get into their home, their first home. Well, how do you do that? Well, if they have credit issues, we're going to work on that. If they, I'm an expert in this FHA loan. I know where the down payment assistance programs are. I know what this is, and I can talk about those types of things, right? And it became where when I talked, they knew exactly who they needed to refer to me, right? Because they knew exactly who I was at that present moment. So I hope that makes sense. So let me look at number 3. Let me see if I wanted to say anything else in number 2 for the relationships. So don't just network randomly. Build intentional relationships with people who already serve your audience. So going to events of people who are serving your audience, and be the reporter, not the salesperson. Okay, so again, that interview style. Okay. The GA.I.N framework. This is number 3. And I taught this at the Smart Credit Conference. I actually spoke on this. It's a framework that I created, and it's called GA.I.N. It's for goal, awareness, insight, and then we have next steps. So the idea around this is, as my business grew, I realized I needed a way to simplify how I help my clients. Okay. And that's what frameworks are about. When you can create frameworks on how your business operates, or another way said is like you have a customer journey, right? Like what's the process that's going to happen to go for my client to come into the door and then get the results that they want. Those would be called systems, processes, frameworks, right? So I have a framework that I use for how to get a client into my ecosystem for me to actually work with them. Okay. And I call it the GA.I.N framework. So feel free to steal this for sure. But so number 1, goal in the GA.I.N framework, the G is goal. So clients don't really want a better credit score for you credit professionals. You probably already know that, right? What they really want is a house or a car or the ability to provide for their family. So you have to start with what the real goal is. So that's where I start in any business conversation. And so we're going to speak about credit because that's where we're at today. So I'm going to be asking that consumer, what is your goal? And I like to even get a little bit deeper. So if they say my goal is a 750 score, why is it a 750 score? Right? The why. Oh, because I want to buy a house and that's what I was told I needed to get the best interest rate. Okay, why do you want to buy a house? Right? And you can get into the really nitty gritty about the why. And it's very helpful in your sales process. So for instance, and I told this story on stage, I had a gentleman who went through my online consultation process, and he told me that he wanted to buy a house. And the reason is because he had just had a baby girl, and he didn't feel like he was a good father. He didn't feel like he was a good husband. He certainly didn't feel like he was a good person in general. He just didn't feel like he was holding up to what he wanted to be in his life. And now that he had a little girl, he felt this really big urge to be something more. And he wanted to show his daughter that he could do it. And so that was his reason. So when I'm talking to him in my consultation process, I'm like, hey, John Doe, thank you for letting me know what your goal is. I'm so excited for you. What a beautiful goal. And I can just picture you today buying your first home, walking your baby girl into that bedroom and asking her, what color do you want to paint this room? And I'm saying that like that to you right now because I knew my audience really well. So I had my niche. I knew how to build relationships, right? Because I'm listening to him and what his needs are. And I understand his needs because I know my niche really well. But now I'm looking at, hey, what is your goal? And now I can express to him. There's a couple of things when you learn about someone's goal that you need to consider. Number 1, a lot of people have a goal. They don't really believe they can possibly reach it. Isn't that interesting? So think about this for a second. You're gonna see that I'm right. Let's say my goal is to lose 50 pounds. So let's say I'm 50 pounds overweight and my goal is to lose 50 pounds. And I came to you and I said, my goal is to lose 50 pounds. I can promise you, me as a person in the back of my head are going, that's not possible. Okay. And so a lot of times, like with my niche first time home buyers, this guy is probably like, my goal is to buy a house, but I don't really truly see that as possible for me. So part of our job as a salesperson to help them get to their goal is to help them realize that it is a possibility for them. Okay. And so that's the A for awareness. We come into awareness and we say, okay, here's where you're at, right? We got to establish we know where you're at. And then we go into insight, which is like, okay, here's where we're at. We're going to figure out what the gap is from where you are to where you want to go. And then the insight is showing like, here's the things we can do to close in on that gap. So essentially, what I'm doing in this process is I'm saying, here's your goal. Yes, it's a big goal. It's an important, amazing goal. And I know you probably don't see yourself being there, but I'm going to help you visualize yourself being there. I'm going to help you visualize walking into that room with your baby girl saying, what color are we going to paint your room? I'm going to help you visualize that because you don't have a vision for it yet, because you don't even think it's possible. So that's part of our job. Help them visualize the goal as a reality, show them where they're at, where the gap is. This is not the time where you're downing them about all the errors in their credit report and their life and, make them feel worse and worse about where they're at. This is just saying, hey, we do have a gap. This is a very soft conversation. And then we go into the insight, but here's how we can close in on that gap to get you to your, and we're looking for things that are easy things that they can actually see themselves having the possibility to do. That's where insight comes in. And then the last one, the N is for next step, or in other words, you can call it an invite. So I might say, hey, John Doe, if it makes sense to you, and it has for a lot of my clients, I would love to handhold you, walk you through my process. I've been there. I've been on the other side of where you're at, where my goal was to buy a home. And this is where the home was. And I've been there, so I know the steps to take to get you there. And I'm willing to hold your hand and walk you through that if it makes sense for you. That's the invite. Do you see how I wasn't salesy? I'm not saying, hey, John, I think I'm the right person for you to do this job. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to do disputes for you. And I'm going to do this and all this stuff. He don't care what I'm going to do. He could care less how many disputes I'm going to do, all this bull crap. He doesn't care. All he cares is, can I trust you that you're going to take me from where I'm at to my goal? And I don't even have to tell him what my process is, as long as I can tell him, hey, I've done it before and I can take you there. And that's the GAIN framework. So G, goal, A, awareness, I, insight, N, next step forward. Okay. All right, so lesson for that one. Frameworks create a clear path, direction, and flow of for what your clients are going to go through, and even your staff, right? So the GAIN process for our office is they know that the GAIN process is what we do for everybody, right? So my staff know too. And that way you can expect what the systems and processes are for your organization, and there you can put those in place. Frameworks aren't just teaching tools, they're clarity tools, okay? So we all know where we're going. Number 4, this is big. Social proof and reviews. I get this question a lot. You have to be able to show that you're credible. And the best way to show that you're credible is to have like Google reviews, right? Social proof, like, you see me on stage talking to people, speaking in front of people, that's social proof, right? Um, Google reviews are really big. So one of the things that I would encourage you to do, and it was a big button in me growing my business really fast, was getting Google reviews. I did not understand the power of Google reviews until I started getting to about 100. And then I found out that instead of me actually getting most of my business from referrals, I was getting most of my business from Google reviews. And what a beautiful thing that was, because now I got to refer to the same people who were sending me referrals, right? So I got to give the gift back to them, which was really great. So then it became that I was the referral source. And so now I was a bigger magnet, right? So any real estate agent or loan officer who wasn't doing business with me was like, I need to start doing business with her. She actually sends business out. How many people in our space actually refer to companies? We're always asking for referrals. Loan officers too. You guys are always asking for referrals from real estate agents. Well, I got to a point I didn't have to ask for referrals because I was giving referrals. So you wanted to be in my ecosystem and refer to me so that you had an opportunity that I might refer to you, right? And so reviews are huge. So if you're not on Google, that's your homework. Get on Google, make sure you have a business profile, and start asking people for reviews. So if you have a customer that says anything beautiful and nice and happy about you, You say, hey, will you do a Google review for me? And have your link very easy to send to them. And since I'll send you the link right now. And I've even had people say, hey, will you write the review for me? I'm like, yeah, let's talk about it. What do you want to say? And then I'll type it and I'll send it to them. They copy and paste and put it in there. Okay. I've had that happen. But Google reviews are really important. But sometimes people say they're going to do it for you and then they don't. So you have to gently remind them, and that's okay. Because most people who say they're going to do a Google review for you, even if they don't do it when they say, their intent is to do it. So they're okay with you reminding them. Okay. So keep that in mind. Let's see what I want to talk about on that. Oh, so I can't tell you how many phone calls I've gotten off the Google reviews that people said, I wanted to work with you because of a Google review. You said that you helped this family buy their first home. And I felt like when I read that review that it was me. Right? And so that's the other thing. And that's why niching down is so important because when people do the Google review, typically when you have a niche, is they specifically talk about themselves in that niche, right? I was a first-time home buyer and I did this. And that'll help make those Google reviews even better. I will say though that sometimes you'll get negative Google reviews, right? Especially as you start to grow your Google reviews, you're going to have more people who are quite happy to give you a negative review because they're like, she's got like 100 5-star reviews and I didn't really think her process was all that good, right? You're not gonna make everybody happy. So my actual favorite Google review is a 1-star review. And the guy said that I didn't do a good job and my communication was bad and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of this really long Google review that he did, because when they're angry, they usually like to make really long ones, right? He says, but she got me to my goal to buy a home. And so you take your ego out of it before you respond to a negative review and you respond positive. So I don't know my exact words to the response, but it was something like, hey, you know what? I'm so sorry that I didn't provide the level of service that you expected from me. But the one thing I'm so happy about is that we were able to get you to your goal because by far and large, that is our sole purpose. And I get so much business. People say, tell me all the time, I called you because of that Google review and how you responded and the guy's response that he got to his goal. So don't be mad about 1-star reviews. They're not always a bad thing. It definitely has gotten me a lot more business than what I think he intended to do. Uh, all right, so that was lesson number 4. Have social proof, have your reviews. Make collecting reviews part of your system. So one of the things that I have in my campaigns is within a couple weeks of you working with me, because that's when people are really excited about what we've already done, they will get an email from me and it's a 1-question survey. And the question is this: Have I earned a 5-star, have I earned 5-star service? And it's yes or no. If they say yes, they'll immediately get another email asking them to do a Google review with the Google review link. Okay. If they say no, I get a task, and my staff get a task that says, hey, this person did not say that we earned a 5-star service review. So we need to call and find out why. And then we get on the phone and we call. Hey, we just got your review, your survey back, and I know we haven't earned that 5-star service. So we wanted to see what can we do to be better so that we can earn that 5-star service. Do you know how many people after they got that phone call went back and said, hey, I'm going to give you a 5-star review? And they're like, okay, I'll send you the Google review because we just asked. Not many people ask, how can I be better? How can I help you? How can I serve you better? Right? And I think that's really important. So make collecting reviews part of your system. It's not something that you think about later and like, oh, I should have asked that person for a Google review. They said something really great about me. No, it should be a part of your process. It should be just a system that happens every time. They sell you better than you can sell yourself. Google reviews sell you better. Anytime someone else says something good about you, it's a lot better on the ears than you saying something good about yourself. Would you agree? Right? So that's the power in that. Okay, number 5, last one. Systems, processes, and the idea of the who, not how concept. Okay. So in the beginning, everything in my business was on my shoulders. I was the salesperson, right? I was the processor, I was the marketer, I was the admin, I was the bookkeeper, I was all the things. And I'm saying bookkeeper like that because I hate bookkeeping. Okay. But I was all those things. And you start to, at first, for me, it was a big ego thing. It's my business. I wear it like a badge of honor. I can do all things, right? But my business actually really suffered and I was burning out and I was really sacrificing my life, right? And now I have to say this, back in my day when I first got started, we're talking a long time ago, there wasn't software like we have today. You know, there wasn't anything such thing as LevelUp Score. There wasn't a dispute software. Those things didn't exist. And so a lot of things had to be done manually. But what I would suggest to you, because you do not live in that world, and if you did in the past, you don't now, is to really start thinking about how do I put systems and processes in place? Like I have the G.A.I.N method. That's how we sell our services is through the G.A.I.N method, right? So that's one of my processes. How do we get people in? But what's the system? Like, what is the journey that they're going to go through? What emails are they going to get? What text messages are they going to get? When are they going to get a phone call? When is their reviews? You should have this laid out and don't worry about having it perfect if you don't have it laid out right now. Have your simple process of, client prospect journey, client journey, lead journey, whatever, you can have multiple journeys, but the first two are the most important, prospect or lead journey and then client journey. Okay. And then as you're working with people, you should always be doing this like feedback. And then you're gonna look at your processes and see if you need to change anything. Feedback, change, feedback, change. And that's gonna grow into, if you look at my systems today, it's like and you look at it and you're like, holy cow, I gotta do that. And it didn't start that way. It was very simple. They get an email here and they get a call here and they get an email here and they get a call here. And then I found out, oh, they need this and they need that. And it started becoming more and more complex, right? But very simple at first. But start laying the foundation of that if you don't already have that. And then once you have this system put in place, I want you to look at how can I automate as much as I can in my business? How can I automate? And I don't want you to delegate right now. This is automate. So a lot of the times I find that people get in trouble because they want to delegate more than automate. And so what that just means is you got to hire more people. The more people you hire, the less money you make. So as a business coach, I've seen a lot of credit repair companies that I've worked with who have a lot more clients than I have, but I make a lot more money than they make. And I have a better life than they have. And why is because I learned the concept of systems and automation because there's so many little minute things that can be automated that you don't need to have a person do. So you don't need to hire that person, right? I talked to one guy a while back, a nice size credit repair company. He's like, oh, I got 40 something employees. I'm like, for how many clients? Because I don't need that. Well, I like paying people. Well, okay, if that's your journey, that's your journey. But that's not my journey, right? Not that I don't like paying people, but businesses are created to make money. Okay. I hope you guys get that concept. We're not in business just to spend our day and our life in it and not enjoy that, right? And the more money that we make, the more that we can give, right? So Alex Hermosi, makes 1.2 million dollars per month. He gives a massive amount of that money back to children's type organizations, right? That he couldn't do if he didn't. He is able to give more value to his clients because he has money to have more systems and automations and different things that are going to bring more value to his clients that he couldn't do if he didn't make a lot of money doing what he does, right? So I hope you guys were okay if you're in business that you want to make a lot of money. So look at your systems, put your systems together, look at how you can automate as much as you possibly can. Once you strip it down to how much, what can you do? Start to look at delegating. So this concept of who, not how. So when we are in school, elementary school, we're always taught to ask how, right? How do I do this? How do I do this? So I want you to like zap that how button out of your head and replace it with who. So Henry Ford was really good at this. Henry Ford was not a well-educated man, but what he was really educated on is he knew how to say who. That was the number one question he had in his mind. Who? Who can make this engine for me? Who can do this? Who can market this? Right? And so the idea is you're going to look for people that can replace you in all those different areas, one at a time. So someone I heard this the other day, and I think it was really important to stress. You know what you want in your business. So what you should do is make those systems and you should know how you want it to be ran. And then once you know how you want it to be ran, then you're going to document that process and you're going to hand it over to somebody else. Okay. Automate the heck out of it and then hand it over to somebody else. So you always want to be thinking who's going to take this over. The first hire I usually suggest is a VA who can take control of a lot of the admin work Maybe someone who's a customer service would be the second one that can take on answering phone calls, text messages, emails, right? Does that make sense what I'm saying? So you want to get the little things out of the way, and then you can start to replace the bigger part of you. Like if you're the person doing all the consultations and you have the GAIN method, you got the GAIN framework intact and you know how it's supposed to do, then you can replicate yourself doing that, send it to someone and they do it just like you, and now you have replaced yourself there. So you're going to do that little by little by little. It doesn't have to be all at one time. Okay. So it doesn't have to be this huge expense. You can grow into it. But it is good. I do agree that knowing how to do all things can be really great in a lot of our businesses. In some businesses, that doesn't work. You don't even want to know all things. You just want to know what your process is. And then you want to hire the people who know those different things in the processes. But for most of us, for the businesses we're doing, being all things at first is okay. But we need to start really looking at how do we automate as much as we can and then start to delegate the who, not how. Okay. If you haven't read that book, by the way, there's a book by Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. It's called Who, Not How. Very, very powerful book that I think will help you understand this whole concept. Okay. So, here's a good thing. Like LevelUp Score, it all comes from that who, not how concept. So I went through, my business was growing so fast, and it was all because I did these action plans because they worked. They got people to their goal, which is why they came to me, right? So they worked really well. So I was spending my day like literally waking up at 3:45 in the morning, having my coffee, doing my journal, saying my prayer, going into my office, working there till 9 or later, crawling into bed, start over the next day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I did this. Okay. And it wasn't until one day where I was like, holy crap, like I don't see my family. I don't enjoy the money that I'm making, but I enjoyed that I was helping people. And that was really what was in my heart to do. And so people were like, Allie, you really, you got to go hire some people because there more people need to know about you. You're only one person. You can't do as much. And so I started to hire people and trying to train them. And it was really hard on something complex as credit, especially when you're dealing with credit and people who are getting a mortgage. There's a whole lot of complexities to that. And so I was like, man, trying to teach someone was like going over their head. It was just too much. And then the idea popped in my head, software, because I can train this software to understand what I'm doing, it like almost like my brain, right? And that was that's the concept of who, not how. So it was not necessarily was it a person, it became a technology, but that was able to alleviate a lot of my work. So now I get to have a more successful business, bringing more value to my clients today, but I sit on the beach, right? And you guys know I love to sit on the beach. So think about that. Consider that. So those are the 5 things. I'm going to go back and recap that. So the 5th lesson, growth doesn't come from doing more. It comes from building systems, finding the right who's, and creating tools like LevelUp Score you see that allow you to scale your impact without sacrificing your life. Okay. So I'm going to go back and talk about these again. So 5 things, my 5 decisions that really changed my life. Number 1, claiming a niche. Probably one of the most important ones. And I think Alex Hormozy would tell you the same thing. It's very important. So having your niche and having a very narrow niche. The more narrow you get, the more money you make. Trust me on this, unless you're in an audience that is very limited, which is very, very unlikely in most of our cases. Number 2, building real relationships, networking, building that know, like, and trust. Number 3, leaning and leading with GAIN framework or frameworks, processes, systems, and automation. Okay. Number 4, leveraging social proof, getting those Google reviews. And number 5, scaling with systems, the who, not how concept. Okay. So I hope I can leave you guys with that. Thank you for today. I appreciate you. But these are truly, if you can take these to heart, I hope you wrote them down, but if you could take these to heart and you start to apply these in your business, you're going to see that you're going to make a lot more money. But most importantly, you're going to have freedom to use that money for a couple reasons. One, to enjoy your life, which you should do. That's what we're here for. And number 2, provide extreme value to your clients because when you make more money, you can offer more. So I appreciate you guys. Have a beautiful day. Thank you for seeing me on Tuesday's Top Tips. I'll see you next Tuesday. I don't know what my topic's going to be. So maybe you guys can comment below what you might want me to discuss next week. I appreciate you all. Have a great day. Thank you.